This means she misses you too much, but she's hiding her true feelings, psychology tricks. The deepest feelings are often shown in silence, not in words. Right now, she is thinking about you, more than you realize, but don't expect a confession, don't expect a late night text, and don't expect honesty if you ask her outright. She'll brush it off, joke about it, or redirect the conversation like it never mattered. That's not indifference, that's restraint. Here's what most men get wrong, and it costs them women they never even knew they had. There's a behavior nearly every man reads as disinterest, when psychologically, it's one of the strongest signs she misses you deeply. Not casually, not mildly, deeply. I'll get to that in a moment, but first, you need to understand a hard truth about attraction that changes how you read women forever. Men express missing someone directly. Women rarely do. Instead, they suppress it. They mask it. They let it leak out sideways through actions that look confusing, inconsistent, or even cold on the surface. This is where men sabotage themselves. You see distance and assume rejection. You see restraint and assume she's moved on. So you step back, right when she's emotionally stepping closer. That single misread moment is where connections quietly die. What I'm about to explain are the subtle psychological signals that reveal when she's missing you, even while pretending she's fine, even when her words sound neutral, even when she's trying to maintain control. And then there's one specific response you can make, a calm, grounded move that removes the mask entirely. It doesn't pressure her, it doesn't chase, but it creates a psychological opening so strong that her real feelings surface on their own. Fair warning, once you understand this, you can't unsee it. You'll stop guessing, you'll stop overthinking, and you'll finally know whether she genuinely cares or whether it's time to walk away with your dignity intact. 1. Why she hides her feelings. Why does she hide her feelings in the first place? That is the hard question, and it's also the right one, because the real story isn't, is she into me? The real story is, what is she protecting and what is she measuring while she's doing it? Picture this. She sees your name light up her screen, and for half a second, she's warm. She feels that familiar pull, that tiny rush, the almost smile she tries to swallow. Then pause. Not because she doesn't care, because she cares enough to manage the moment. She sets the phone down like it's heavier than it should be. She tells herself, I'll answer later, as if later is a safer place to stand. And while you're on your side of the silence doing math, it's been 2 hours, did I say something wrong? She's doing her own math too, just with different numbers. If I reply too fast, will he stop trying? If I show I miss him, will he take me for granted? If I lean in, will he lean out? Don't mistake delay for disinterest. Be careful with that assumption. In a lot of cases, the delay is a mask, one of those psychology tricks people use when they're afraid their feelings will show on their face. Here's the part most men don't get told, especially men who've lived long enough to know love isn't a Disney song and still find themselves surprised by it. For many women, admitting they miss you isn't just a sweet confession, it's a risk calculation. It's not about playing hard to get like a teenager. It's about emotional self-protection like an adult. She may be hiding from rejection, yes, but she may also be hiding from regret. She may have learned through experience that being too open too early can attract the wrong kind of attention, the kind that likes the chase, but not the commitment. So she keeps her warmth under a lid and calls it being sensible. She's not trying to punish you. She's trying to prevent herself from feeling foolish later. That is the quiet truth behind a lot of silence. She's not hiding her feelings from you as much as she's hiding them from the version of herself that would jump in too fast. Don't laugh. This is female psychology at work, and it's often less dramatic than people make it sound and more human than you expect. She's scanning for signs. She's checking your consistency, your emotional steadiness, your ability to stay grounded when the connection isn't perfectly linear. Be calm. Be steady. That is what she's watching for, even when she pretends she isn't. Because to her nervous system, the question isn't simply, do I like him? It's, is he safe to like? And safe doesn't mean boring. It means reliable under pressure, respectful with power, and mature with uncertainty. You must understand this. When she feels herself getting attached, a switch flips. The more she wants you, the more she worries about losing herself in the wanting. That can create a strange little dance where her emotions speed up and her behavior slows down. She'll reread your message, feel the pull, and then force herself to respond like she's ordering a sandwich. Short, casual, almost dry. Not because she's cold, but because she's trying to look in control. That is one of the oldest psychology tricks in the book. If I act like I'm not affected, I won't be hurt. And it's not just personal history, there's also social conditioning. Many women grow up hearing that showing too much interest looks needy, that responding quickly looks available, that being honest too soon makes a man lose interest. So she learns a script, and the script tells her to delay, to downplay, to keep a little distance even when her heart is leaning forward. Don't take the script personally, but don't ignore it either. Notice it, understand it, respond to it with maturity. Because here's the twist. Sometimes she's testing you without even realizing she's testing you. Not in a manipulative way, more like a reflex. She wants to know if you'll panic, if you'll chase recklessly, if you'll demand reassurance, if you'll turn her pause into a courtroom where she has to defend her feelings. And if you do, it confirms her fear. If I show him I miss him, he'll make it my job to calm him down. That's why emotional strength matters here. Not the tough guy act, not the silent stone routine, but the quiet confidence of a man who can hold space without squeezing it. Be direct, but don't be dramatic. Be interested, but don't be frantic. That balance is magnetic and it's also rare. Most men either over-pursue and smother the moment, or they get offended and disappear to prove a point. Don't do either. Be the steady one. That is how you flip the whole dynamic without force. And yes, there can be a deeper layer. She may believe that showing she misses you gives you leverage. Not because you're cruel, but because life has taught her that affection can be used as currency. So she withholds it, not to starve you, but to keep the price from rising. It sounds calculating when you say it out loud, but it's usually emotional, not strategic. Think about it. When she admits she misses you, she feels exposed. She imagines you leaning back. She imagines you replying slower next time. She imagines herself waiting by the phone, feeling silly. So she tries to keep the upper hand, not to win against you, but to avoid losing herself. That is female psychology in a nutshell. It's not always about you. It's about what she's trying to prevent inside her own mind. Now you might be thinking, so what am I supposed to do? Play games too? Don't. Be smarter than that. Games attract gamers, not partners. You must lead with clarity. If you like her, show it in a grounded way. If you miss her, say it once, cleanly, without begging for a matching confession. If she delays, don't punish her with sarcasm. Don't send the guess you're busy message that drips with annoyance. That message doesn't make you look confident. It makes you look like you're keeping score. And a woman who hides her feelings is already allergic to scorekeeping. Be simple, be warm, be firm. That combination tells her, you don't have to perform here, you don't have to hide. And when she senses that, she relaxes. When she relaxes, she reveals. When she reveals, the connection deepens. That is how to fall in love in the real world. Not by forcing a confession, but by creating an atmosphere where honesty feels safe. And listen, this isn't about turning you into a therapist or a mind reader. It's about understanding the emotional mechanics so you don't misinterpret the signs and blow up something good. Because the sign might be subtle. She watches your stories but doesn't comment. She likes something from a few days ago, as if she accidentally bumped into you online. She asks a practical question she could have Googled. She sends a meme at midnight, then disappears again. These are soft bids for connection. They're not dramatic declarations, but they're real. Don't mock the subtlety. Respect it. And if you want to get even sharper, notice what she does after she finally replies. Does she keep the conversation going? Does she ask questions? Does she circle back later? If she does, that means the delay wasn't rejection, it was regulation. She was managing her own feelings. She was making sure she didn't come on too strong. She was using psychology tricks to protect her pride while still staying connected to you. Now, if you're dealing with a woman who consistently hides her feelings, there's a simple rule that separates men who spiral from men who succeed. Don't chase the silence. Respond to the signal. The signal is her effort, her consistency over time, her willingness to meet you halfway once she's in the conversation. If she keeps showing up, even quietly, that's your evidence. Don't demand a State of the Union talk every time you feel uncertain. Be patient, but not passive. Invite closeness without demanding it. Say things like, I like talking to you, let's grab coffee this week, and then let her answer. That is decisive, that is calm, that is attractive, and it gives her room to step forward without feeling cornered. Because here's another piece of female psychology most men miss. Pressure doesn't create openness, it creates performance. If you push too hard, she'll either withdraw more or she'll say what she thinks you want to hear, and neither of those builds real intimacy. So don't push. Lead, offer, stand steady, let her choose. That is how to fall in love with someone who's cautious. You show her that your interest isn't a trap, and your presence isn't conditional on her being perfectly expressive on your timeline. Also, understand this. A woman can miss you intensely and still act cool. That's not a contradiction. That's self-control mixed with fear. She's thinking, if I show him I miss him, he'll think he's got me. And even if you would never treat her badly, her brain doesn't run on your promises. It runs on patterns it has seen before. So your job isn't to argue with her fear. Your job is to outlast it with consistency. Be consistent. Be respectful. Be emotionally clean. Don't punish her for being careful, because when she finally stops hiding, she doesn't do it with fireworks. She does it with little moments. She texts first. She checks on you. She remembers details. She makes time. She softens. And when that happens, don't act shocked. Don't tease her for finally admitting it. That makes her retreat. Instead, meet her softness with steady warmth. That's how you turn her hidden feelings into shared feelings. That's how you turn tension into trust. That's how to fall in love without turning it into a contest. And if you ever feel yourself slipping into paranoia, counting hours, rereading texts, inventing stories, stop. Don't feed the fantasy. Be present. Ask for what you want in a mature way. Say, I enjoy talking with you, and I'd like to see you. When are you free? Then watch what she does. Actions are louder than timing. Timing can be anxiety. Actions are intention. Remember, psychology tricks can explain the pause, but her follow-through reveals her heart. So yes, she might miss you so much it scares her. She might be hiding because she doesn't want to feel exposed. She might be watching to see if you're steady enough to handle her honesty when it arrives. And if you handle it right, calm, direct, warm, unshaken, you won't just decode her. You'll become the kind of man she doesn't feel the need to hide from in the first place. And that is the real win, because it doesn't just get you a text back. It builds the kind of connection where both of you can breathe. 2. Why interest looks like distance. Why interest looks like distance is one of the most misunderstood truths in modern dating, especially for men who've lived enough life to know that words rarely tell the full story. So let's slow this down and look at it clearly, because this part will challenge your instincts. When a woman is truly starting to fall for you, she often doesn't lean in harder. She leans back. That sounds backward. It feels wrong. But stay with me here, because this pattern shows up again and again, and it's rooted in how attraction, safety, and emotional evaluation actually work. When her feelings deepen, her awareness sharpens. She becomes more careful, not more casual. She notices herself thinking about you when she didn't plan to. She catches herself replaying conversations. She feels that subtle shift from curiosity to attachment, and that is exactly when her behavior changes. Not because she's losing interest, but because she's gaining something to lose. Her mind doesn't say, I like him, so I'll show more. Her mind says, I like him, so I need to be sure. That is the pivot point. That is where distance enters the picture. And here's the evolutionary psychology behind it, stripped of fluff and excuses. Her brain runs a quiet test, not a cruel test, not a childish one, a practical test. If I pull back just a little, what happens to him? That's the question. Does he panic? Does he overreach? Does he lose his center? Or does he stay grounded, steady, and self-respecting? This is not about manipulation. It's about selection. It's about choosing the kind of man she can relax with over time. That is why interest can look like distance. The more she cares, the more she watches. Most men fail this moment, and they fail it fast. They feel the shift and assume the worst. They tell themselves a story. She's losing interest. I did something wrong. I need to fix this now. And from that place of anxiety, they react instead of respond. Some chase harder. They send more messages, longer messages, messages that explain feelings no one asked to hear yet. They look for reassurance and accidentally communicate insecurity. Others swing the opposite direction. They vanish. They go cold. They try to take their power back by disappearing, hoping she'll notice and chase. Both reactions come from the same place, fear, and both confirm what her instincts were already questioning. Not that you're a bad man, but that you're not yet a high-value man in how you handle uncertainty. Don't misunderstand this. Being a high-value man is not about arrogance, status, or pretending you don't care. It's about emotional self-command. It's about knowing who you are when things feel unclear. When she pulls back slightly, she's not asking you to perform. She's observing whether you can stay rooted in your masculine energy without needing her to constantly validate it. That is the test. And most men don't even realize they're being tested because they're too busy reacting to their own discomfort. Here's the quiet truth. A woman doesn't want a man who collapses when she pauses. She also doesn't want a man who punishes her for needing space. She wants a man who remains consistent, calm, open, self-directed. That steadiness is what allows her nervous system to relax. And when her nervous system relaxes, attraction deepens. This is how you attract women without chasing them. You don't force closeness, you create safety through presence. Think about it this way. Imagine a lake. When the water is calm, you can see clearly into it. When it's disturbed, everything gets cloudy. Her pulling back is like letting the water settle. She's watching to see if you throw rocks into it or let it clear on its own. Don't throw rocks. Be still. That is strength. Now let's talk about the mistake men make right here. They assume distance equals disinterest. That assumption drives bad decisions. You must stop making that leap. Distance can mean many things. It can mean she's processing feelings. It can mean she's protecting herself. It can mean she's watching how you handle emotional ambiguity. None of those require you to chase or withdraw. They require you to remain you. That's it. No theatrics. No strategies layered on top of fear. Be clear about this. When a woman tests like this, she's not asking, "Does he want me?" She already knows the answer to that. She's asking, "Can he hold himself together when he doesn't know exactly where he stands?" That question matters more than compliments, attention, or intensity. It speaks directly to long-term attraction. This is where masculine energy shows itself naturally, not through control, but through composure. Don't confuse masculine energy with silence. Silence without presence feels cold. Presence without pressure feels grounded. You can still be warm. You can still initiate. You can still express interest. Just don't attach your stability to her response speed or enthusiasm in that moment. That is the difference. A man who can say, "I enjoy talking with you. Let's get together this week," and then genuinely be okay with waiting for her answer, is a man who attracts women without effort, because his value is not on trial in his own mind. Now here's where everything shifts, and this is the part most men never learn. If you understand what she's testing, you stop taking her behavior personally. You stop turning her pause into a verdict on your worth. And when you do that, your energy changes. You become less reactive, more intentional, more relaxed. That change is felt immediately. Women are extraordinarily sensitive to emotional shifts. She will feel that you didn't flinch. She will notice that you didn't overcorrect. She will register that you didn't disappear. And that quiet steadiness speaks louder than words. Be aware of this pattern. When she pulls back and you stay centered, something interesting happens. She often returns with more openness, more warmth, more engagement, not because you played a game, but because you passed a filter. You demonstrated that your sense of self doesn't wobble under mild uncertainty. That is the hallmark of a high-value man, not perfection, stability. You must also understand why chasing fails so consistently here. Chasing tells her that her withdrawal destabilized you. It signals that your emotional state depends on her behavior. That creates pressure, even if you don't intend it to. Pressure makes her pull back further. On the other hand, disappearing completely signals rigidity. It tells her you respond to discomfort by shutting down. That doesn't feel safe either. So don't chase, don't vanish, stay present, stay whole. Attract women by staying in your life. Keep your routines, keep your standards, keep your direction. When you do that, your masculine energy stays intact. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are inviting connection without needing it to define you. That posture is deeply attractive, especially to women who are emotionally aware and cautious about where they invest. There's also something important to say to men between 35 and 70 specifically. At this stage of life, you're not building attraction from scratch. You're filtering. You're choosing alignment over intensity. A woman who pulls back when she starts to care is not playing games. She's checking compatibility at a deeper level. She's asking whether you bring calm or chaos into moments of uncertainty. That matters more now than it did in your 20s, and your ability to handle that with grace sets you apart immediately. Don't lecture her. Don't interrogate her. Don't ask, "Why are you being distant?" That question puts her on the defensive and collapses the test into conflict. Instead, stay grounded. Let your actions speak. Keep communication respectful and light. Offer connection without demand. That balance shows emotional leadership, not control. And emotional leadership is what women respond to long term. Be patient with this phase. It doesn't last forever. Once she sees that you don't lose yourself when things slow down, she no longer needs to test. She relaxes. She leans in naturally. That is when interest becomes visible again. Not forced, not rushed. Earned through consistency. You must also drop the idea that attraction is built by constant momentum. It's not. It's built by emotional contrast. Calm followed by connection. Space followed by closeness. When you respect the rhythm instead of fighting it, you become someone she feels safe moving toward. This is how you attract women without manipulation. This is how you maintain masculine energy without posturing. This is how a high-value man moves through uncertainty without losing himself. Not by doing more, but by being more stable. So remember this the next time her interest looks like distance. Don't panic. Don't assume. Don't react. Be steady. Be self-directed. Be warm without chasing. That is not indifference. That is confidence. And confidence, expressed calmly and consistently, is what turns tests into trust and curiosity into connection. And if this hit home, if you understand now that distance isn't rejection, but a test, drop this in the comments right now. I stay centered. I don't chase. I let attraction reveal itself. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp, unshakable insight, and remember this every time silence shows up. Interest doesn't disappear. It watches. 3. The one sign everyone gets wrong. Most men misunderstand the most important signal a woman ever sends, and that single misunderstanding costs them connection, respect, and momentum in modern relationships. The one sign that reveals she misses you deeply, thinks about you constantly, and feels emotionally stirred is the exact sign most men label as failure, rejection, or loss. That sign is inconsistency, not silence, not distance, not mixed signals. Emotional fluctuation, because when a woman feels nothing, she is stable, predictable, polite, and emotionally flat. Yet when real emotion enters her system, everything becomes unstable inside her, and that instability leaks out through behavior that looks confusing to the untrained eye, but speaks loudly to the man with an iron mind. One day, she is engaged, responsive, curious, present, and warm. The next day, she is distant, brief, slower to respond, more guarded. This shift shocks men who expect linear behavior. But human psychology is not linear, especially when emotion collides with fear, attachment, memory, and self-protection. This is where Old Stoic wisdom becomes invaluable, because Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." A man who understands this does not panic when behavior fluctuates. He observes, he steadies himself, he stays grounded. Inconsistency does not mean confusion on your part. It means conflict on hers. Conflict only arises when something matters, because indifference is smooth. Indifference is calm. Indifference is steady. Emotion is chaotic. Emotion pulls forward and pushes back. Emotion creates approach and retreat. In modern life, where women are taught to guard their independence, protect their emotions, and question vulnerability, strong feelings trigger internal resistance, not surrender. When she pulls back after warmth, she is not losing interest. She is trying to regain control over feelings that surprised her, because missing you disrupts her routines, her emotional balance, and her sense of certainty. When she reaches out again, it is not strategy, it is gravity. Emotional gravity always pulls us back to what moved us. This cycle repeats until clarity replaces fear, or fear replaces desire. Your role as a man is not to chase the cold moments or cling to the warm ones. Your role is to remain stable while she oscillates, because stability is attractive. Calm is attractive. Self-command is irresistible. This is why Stoicism win is not a slogan. It is a strategy for relationships in a world driven by emotion but mastered by discipline. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." Most men look foolish reacting emotionally to emotional shifts, sending extra messages, demanding explanations, overcorrecting, pulling away dramatically, or collapsing into silence. The man who understands psychology holds his frame, continues his life, stays present without pressure, and lets her feel the contrast between her internal storm and his external calm. That contrast creates safety, and safety allows emotion to settle instead of explode. This is advice men between 35 and 70 must internalize in today's dating landscape, where technology amplifies every delay, every pause, every read receipt, and every hour without response. Phones compress time and expand anxiety. Only a man with an iron mind can resist that pull. When you stop reacting, you start leading. Leadership in emotional dynamics is not control, it is composure. Seneca warned, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary." Reacting to inconsistency is suffering before the outcome is even known. Instead of questioning her interest, questioning yourself, or questioning the connection, observe patterns over time, because patterns reveal truth, not moments. Inconsistency over time paired with continued engagement means emotional involvement, not rejection. A woman who is done does not fluctuate. She fades. She exits cleanly. She stops investing energy. A woman who is internally wrestling stays connected while trying to regulate herself. The mistake men make is trying to resolve her conflict for her, when the strongest move is to allow her to resolve it in your presence. Growth happens when people face their own emotions without being rescued from them. This is where Old Stoic wisdom intersects with modern dating, because Stoicism teaches self-mastery first, outcome second. When you master your reactions, you master the dynamic. Confidence is not loud. It is quiet consistency. It is knowing who you are regardless of how others fluctuate. This mindset improves more than relationships. It sharpens decision-making, leadership, health, and peace of mind. When you stop chasing validation, you start attracting alignment. Attraction grows strongest when pressure disappears. The man who wins in love is the man who is already winning within himself. Viktor Frankl said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." You cannot control her emotions, but you can control your response. That response determines whether she feels calm or crowded, curious or closed. In a world that urges men to react faster, explain more, and feel harder, the man who slows down, speaks less, observes more, and remains grounded becomes rare. Rarity increases value. Value sustains desire. Remember this instruction clearly. When she becomes inconsistent, do not assume loss. Assume impact. Do not panic. Do not pursue harder. Do not withdraw dramatically. Maintain presence without pressure, interest without attachment, and confidence without explanation. Stoicism win is about showing up as a man who does not need certainty to remain centered. When you embody that, her internal conflict will either resolve toward you or release itself away from you. Either outcome is a victory, because clarity is power. Peace is power. Self-command is the highest form of attraction. This is why Old Stoic wisdom, applied with an iron mind, is not just philosophy. It is a blueprint for mastering relationships and mastering life itself. 4. 5 hidden signs she's missing you. Here's the truth you've been circling but maybe haven't wanted to name yet, so let's name it clearly and calmly. Without drama, without fantasy, just grounded understanding. Because when a woman misses you deeply, she rarely announces it with fireworks. She hides it in patterns, in timing, in silence that speaks louder than words. And if you know how to read female psychology, these signs stop feeling confusing and start feeling obvious. So don't doubt yourself. Don't rush. Don't force clarity where patience reveals everything. Because the first hidden sign shows up online, where she believes she's unseen. And that belief gives her away. She watches your stories every single time. She scrolls your posts, she checks your updates, yet she never likes, never comments, never reacts. And that silence is not indifference. That is restraint. That is her staying close without stepping forward. That is her protecting herself while still feeding the emotional connection. Because attention without engagement feels safer. And this is one of the quiet psychology tricks women use when emotions are present, but pride or fear is stronger. So be observant. Be still. Don't call her out. Don't chase validation. Because the fact that she keeps watching means you're still relevant in her inner world. And the second sign comes wrapped in randomness, but guided by intention. She reaches out with something small, a meme late at night, a casual question about something long resolved, a link she just happened to see. And you must understand this clearly. It is never about the message. It is about opening a door without admitting she wanted to knock. Timing matters here. Late hours reveal emotional honesty because that's when defenses drop and missing someone gets louder. So don't dismiss it. Don't overanalyze it. Simply recognize it as a bid for connection shaped by caution, a textbook move in female psychology, subtle, indirect, but sincere. And the third sign unfolds through other people instead of through you. She mentions your name to mutual friends, not boldly, not dramatically, but gently, almost accidentally. She asks how you're doing, what you're up to, whether you've changed. And this matters because talking about you lets her feel close without risking rejection. It gives her emotional relief without exposure. And you must see this for what it is: rehearsal, reflection, attachment still alive. So don't underestimate the power of your absence being felt in rooms you're not in. Because when someone misses you, your name becomes a destination in conversation. And the fourth sign happens fast, almost instantly, often in less than 3 seconds when you're together. And this is where words fail, but the body tells the truth. She faces you fully. Her posture opens. Her movements mirror yours without thinking. Her eyes widen. She touches her hair, her hands, her phone, not because she's nervous, but because the body responds before the mind edits the response. And you must trust this, because unconscious behavior is honest behavior. And this is where understanding how to fall in love really begins. Not through grand statements, but through alignment, attention, presence. And the fifth sign is the most revealing, because it requires patience and pattern recognition. She remembers everything, things you forgot you ever said, small details, passing comments, moments that seemed insignificant to you, but lodged themselves in her memory. Because when someone misses you, they replay you again and again, and memory becomes a place they visit often. So don't brush it off. Don't pretend it's coincidence. It's emotional investment surfacing naturally. And here's the deeper point you must grasp. Missing someone doesn't always look like longing texts or dramatic gestures. It often looks like restraint, like subtlety, like quiet persistence. And if you approach this with calm confidence, if you don't rush, don't pressure, don't demand clarity before it's ready, you allow space for authenticity to rise. Because attraction grows where safety exists, and connection deepens where understanding replaces force. So be grounded, be attentive, be patient. This is not about control. This is about awareness. This is about recognizing patterns instead of chasing reassurance. And when you truly understand psychology tricks, when you respect female psychology, when you internalize how to fall in love as a process rather than a performance, you stop guessing and start seeing. And that is when things shift, quietly, powerfully, in your favor. If this opened your eyes, don't just watch and move on. Act. Like the video, subscribe for more insight into attraction and human behavior, and most importantly, join the conversation below. Comment this sentence to lock the lesson in your mind and show you understand the signal beneath the silence. Silence doesn't mean absence, it often means restraint. 5. The move that forces the truth. The move that forces the truth begins where most men get it wrong, and if you're honest with yourself, you've probably been there too. You've learned the signs, you've noticed the late-night messages, the quiet attention, the subtle pull that tells you she misses you more than she admits. But knowing is not the same as acting wisely. That is the turning point. That is where outcomes are decided. Most men panic at this stage. They speed up when they should slow down. They talk when silence would speak louder. They reach when restraint would create gravity. Don't do that. Don't rush forward just because the door looks open. Be calm. Be deliberate. Because when you rush, you collapse the tension that attraction needs to breathe. You text more. You explain more. You try to clarify feelings. You try to secure certainty. And the moment you do, something shifts. Her energy pulls back. The curiosity fades. The mystery dissolves. The signs that once felt alive suddenly go quiet. That is not because she stopped caring. That is because the emotional balance tilted too far, too fast. You must understand this clearly. Attraction is not built through pressure. It is built through polarity, pacing, and presence. A high-value man does not chase clarity when uncertainty is working in his favor. He doesn't demand answers at the peak of interest. He lets interest reveal itself. Most men do the opposite because they're afraid of losing what they haven't fully secured. But fear-driven action never creates desire. It only exposes need. And need is not attractive. That is not about pretending to be someone else. That is about regulating yourself. That is about choosing discipline over impulse. That is about stepping into masculine energy, not as a performance, but as a posture toward life. So here is the move that actually works, the one that feels counterintuitive but changes everything. You create strategic distance, right when her interest is highest. Not coldness, not cruelty. Distance with warmth intact. You respond slower, not because you're playing games, but because your life is full. You end conversations first, not abruptly, but confidently. You become busier, not artificially, but intentionally. You invest more energy into your purpose, your routines, your friendships, your health. Your social media doesn't scream for attention. It quietly shows momentum. You're living well. You're moving forward. You're not waiting around. That shift alone speaks volumes, and it does something powerful inside her mind. Here's what happens next, and this is where psychology takes over without you saying a word. Her certainty dissolves. Questions begin to surface. Did I wait too long? Is he pulling away? Is he meeting someone new? Did I misread what we had? These thoughts don't come from insecurity. They come from attachment meeting uncertainty, and uncertainty fuels focus. Focus turns into rumination. Rumination turns into emotional investment. That investment grows louder, the quieter you become. This is one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks, not because it's manipulative, but because it respects human nature instead of fighting it. You are not forcing anything. You are simply removing pressure and allowing truth to rise. Don't interrupt that process. Don't rush back in to reassure her. Be grounded. Be patient. Let the silence do its work. Because when someone feels they might lose access to you, they are forced to confront what you actually mean to them. That confrontation is uncomfortable. It creates emotional urgency, and urgency pulls honesty to the surface. This is how women reveal their true feelings without being pushed. This is how masks come off naturally. This is how attraction deepens without conversation turning into negotiation. You must also understand something deeper here. Strategic distance only works when it's real. If you pull back but sit there watching your phone, counting minutes, waiting for her response, the energy is off. She will feel it. Energy always leaks. A high-value man pulls back to move forward elsewhere. He doesn't withdraw to provoke. He withdraws to live. That is the difference. That is why this works for men who truly want to attract women, not impress them temporarily. Attraction follows direction. When your life has direction, people feel it. They lean in. They want to be part of that movement. This is also where masculine energy becomes visible without being announced. Masculine energy is not loud. It is calm. It is steady. It does not chase emotional certainty. It allows emotions to arrive on their own. It trusts timing. It trusts presence. When you stop trying to extract feelings from her and start giving space for feelings to grow, something flips. She begins to move toward you emotionally. She initiates. She reveals. She invests. Not because you demanded it, but because she chose it. Choice is everything. Attraction that feels chosen feels powerful. Attraction that feels pressured feels fragile. Many men misunderstand this move because they confuse it with indifference. That is not what this is. Indifference kills connection. Strategic distance strengthens it. You still listen when she speaks. You still engage when you're together. You still show warmth. But you don't linger. You don't hover. You don't over-explain. You let moments end on a high note. You leave space for her to miss you. Missing is not a problem to solve. Missing is a signal of attachment forming. Let it happen. Don't rob her of that experience by being constantly available. Think of it like this. Fire needs oxygen, but too much smothers it. Attraction is the same. Presence without absence becomes noise. Absence with warmth becomes pull. That pull is what brings out truth. That truth is what most men say they want, but unknowingly block with their own behavior. Don't block it. Be disciplined enough to step back at the right moment. Be confident enough to trust the process. Be centered enough to know that if she reveals her feelings, it's because they're real, not because you pushed them out of her. This approach also filters the outcome in your favor. If she steps forward emotionally, you know the interest is genuine. If she fades, you have clarity without confrontation. Either way, you win. You're not stuck guessing. You're not trapped in emotional limbo. You're not investing energy where it's not returned. That is the mindset of a high-value man. He doesn't fear outcomes. He respects them. He understands that truth, even when it's quiet, is better than forced reassurance. And here's the part that truly changes your life if you let it. When you stop chasing emotional confirmation from women, you start building a life that naturally attracts women. Your confidence stabilizes. Your decisions sharpen. Your standards rise. You no longer need to decode every signal because your presence sets the tone. You're no longer reacting. You're leading your own life. That leadership is felt. That steadiness is noticed. That is masculine energy expressed in its most authentic form. So don't rush. Don't explain. Don't try to lock things down when curiosity is still alive. Be patient. Be busy. Be centered. Let strategic distance do what endless conversations never could. Because when she truly misses you, distance doesn't push her away. It pulls the truth out of her. And when the truth arrives, it arrives clearly, freely, and without resistance. That is the move. That is the shift. That is how everything changes. All right, my friend, thanks for staying with me until the end. Here's the truth you need to really hear, and I want you to hear it calmly, not emotionally. You only have power in this situation when you are truly okay with walking away. The moment you need her to miss you, you lose that power. The moment you start checking signs, rereading messages, overthinking every reply, you've already handed control away. But when you build a life so full, so grounded, that whether she misses you or not doesn't decide your happiness, that's when you become impossible to forget. And listen carefully, she's not hiding her feelings because you're not enough. She's hiding them because she's scared of how much you might actually mean to her. So stop asking, does she miss me? Ask yourself something more important. Am I becoming the kind of man worth missing? Because when you are, you don't chase signals. You don't decode mixed messages. You become the standard, the exception, the one she can't replace or forget. If this hit home for you, drop a comment with the word "thank you" so I know you're serious about understanding this at a deeper level. And hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started. In the next video, I'll break down the 3 texts that make her chase you. See you there.